the end of the X-Files episode Milagro, a fan fiction writer has the realisation that what he's written must never be read.
Even as the stranger felt compelled to commit his final words to paper, he did it knowing they must never be read.
The antagonist, being a fan fiction writer, is undeniable because he developed an infatuation with Scully from a distance and decided to write a story about her, which led to him intruding on her life to learn more.
You moved here because of me.
I'm writing about you.
Since when?
Since I first noticed you. You live in my old neighborhood. To really write someone, I have to be in their head. I have to know them more completely than they know themselves.
And ended with the realisation that all of his assumptions were wrong.
In my book, I'd written that Agent Scully falls in love, but that's obviously impossible. Agent Scully is already in love.
The fan fiction writer is portrayed as a loner with warped intentions and an acute lack of skill.
Writing your books.
Yes.
Anything I'd know?
No. They're all failures.
He writes long-winded monologues which never end.
Her prompt mind ran through the Golconda of possibilities. Was this trinket from the killer? Was there a message contained in its equivocal symbolism? Was he religious man for a face with the envelope, leaving the telltale DNA of the penis unraveling? The iodine certainty killed his male. Now she held the golden metal fingertip. She imagined him doing the same, trying to picture his face. It would be a plain face, an average face, a face people would be prone to trust. She is inherently being naturally trusting herself.
Do you have any thoughts? Notes?
I just enjoyed it. That's my note, you know? Please write more.
And the only thing worse than his writing is his cringe personality.
I see this as making you uncomfortable. And I'm sorry. It's just that I'm taken with you.
I mean, the message to fan fiction writers seems clear enough in that they are only capable of destroying and not creating.
But I have love in my heart.
Yes. As the thief has riches, a user of money, you have it. But man's only power is to destroy it.
So, on the surface, this felt mean-spirited, like Sherlock's portrayal of fan fiction at the beginning of season 3.
Are you out of your mind?
I don't see why not. It's just as plausible as some of your theories.
Look, if you're not going to take it seriously...
I do take it seriously.
I mean, fan fiction comes from passion for the source material, and I disagree with any creators who mock their fans' enthusiasm.
What the hell are you talking about?
You're a lifesaver, Homer. I can't deal with these hardcore fans.
I can understand a creator's frustration with fanfiction, like how hard it must be to finish Game of Thrones when every possible outcome has already been predicted online. But remember that being a fan of Lord of the Rings is what gave us Game of Thrones. And then imagine how Tolkien would respond to Martin's fan theories.
Why did you bring Gandalf back from the dead? He should have stayed dead. You suck!
The point is that nobody can predict the impact of fanfiction, just like the fan theory, which reversed protagonists in The Karate Kid, and gave fans a new interpretation which was so strong that it drove a full-on revival with Cobra Kai.
A writer's story comes to frightening life.
However, there is a nuance to this portrayal, as the antagonist is a writer whose fan fiction comes to life.
As she pushed an errant strand of Titian hair behind her ear, expeditiously violating the Fourth Amendment against mail theft, he prepared to impudently infract the First.
I'd only imagined that you'd come here today.
Anything he writes comes true, like evoking feelings and actions from both Mulder and Scully, and his victims die because his writing literally takes the heart from these characters.
I often come here to look at this painting. It's called My Divine Heart, after the miracle of St. Margaret Mary.
So this episode is actually a specific criticism, with one writer in mind, because the next episode in season 6 was written and directed by David Duchovny.
Written and directed by David Duchovny.
And it seems clear that Chris Carter wrote Milagro's teleplay to comprise a critical response to Duchovny's writing.
Are you making fun of him?
The Unnatural is actually one of my favourite episodes. The plot is an errant alien breaking from the Taking Over Earth project to be a minor league baseball player instead.
I hit a home run tonight.
Now you die.
It has a lot of heart, many funny moments, and it actually goes a long way toward humanising the aliens.
Would this be easy for you to handle?
However, it starts with a scene that's got Mulder and Scully interacting like silly adolescents. And ironically, the monster of the week in this episode is Mulder, whose behaviour in the final scene borders on misconduct.
Better turn on the all-Wiggum charm.
Oh boy, that sounded bad.
The worst thing is that Scully puts up with this, which is addressed in Milagro, because the uneasiness of her scenes with the antagonist stem from Scully being compelled to feel attracted to him, just because it's written down.
You know you're in here, don't you?
What does he say?
Let's just say it ends with you doing the naked wrestle with a stranger on a bed in an unfurnished fourth-floor apartment.
So, I would imagine Chris Carter's feedback to Duchovny was something like grabbing him by the ears and screaming in his face that you don't just get Scully to grasp a phallic object and have Mulder grab her around the waist and put his hand on her hip while making filthy innuendos.
It's not a bad piece of ash, huh? The bat. Talking about the bat.
This is important because Mulder and Scully's chemistry holds the show together. I mean, you can sit through many bad episodes just for the entertainment value of these characters.
I know what I saw.
But this chemistry is fragile.
A lady that fine, you gotta romance first.
Their physical relationship develops with subtlety, starting with a kiss, then an ambiguous night together.
And I know that on one lonely night you invited Mulder to your bed.
And finally a breakthrough.
Are we gonna spend time together?
However, the physical aspect is not even important, because anyone watching knows that they're in love, and having them arbitrarily hug or kiss is putting a hat on a hat.
Ow!
Milagro highlighted this concept in a moment when Scully intervened to stop Mulder, with this small interaction being enough to show the antagonist that she was already in love.
Big mistake. I misjudged her character, her interest in me.
So if Mulder groping her is on one end of the scale, then Scully holding his arm is on the opposite end, giving a perfect example of what not to do and what to do.
You don't like the move?
No, I don't.
You kidding?
It feels like aliens poking at my body.
However, the story doesn't end there, as the next season also has an episode written and directed by David Duchovny.
Written and directed by David Duchovny.
Which ends with this. So, to clarify, Duchovny's The Unnatural has his hand on her hip, then Carter's Milagro has her hand on his arm, and Duchovny's response to this is her hand on his arm in Hollywood AD. I mean, it's interesting that Duchovny approached Frank Spotnitz for his next chance at writing and directing an episode, because he brought his first script to Carter, so why not bring his next one to him as well?
Sir, have I pissed you off in a way that's more than normal?
So Carter must have aired his disapproval and given feedback directly to Duchovny, because the improvements in Hollywood AD are too specific to be by chance.
Truth can be stranger than fiction.
Pretty much everything he got wrong about Mulder and Scully in The Unnatural, he gets right in Hollywood AD.
Mulder, it is such a gorgeous day outside. Have you ever entertained the idea of trying to find life on this planet?
First, Scully is not a lazy airhead who only wants to go enjoy the sun and doesn't actually care about working on the X-Files.
Wayne Fetterman's invited us out to LA to watch his movie being filmed, and God knows I could use a little sunshine.
In fact, Mulder decides to drop the compelling Monster of the Week plot to go enjoy the sun in Hollywood.
California, here we come.
Next, Scully has good characterization and is involved in the plot at every step.
That is a very cool story coming from you, Scully.
Finally, Mulder is not inappropriate to Scully in any way. I mean, the closest he gets is calling her a twisted sister in reference to the nun story she shared. And this would only seem inappropriate if you'd seen Californication.
Twisted sister. It's my kind of nun, you know.
The most overt correction is that the antagonist embraces and kisses Mulder, but only shakes hands with Scully. And then Gary Shandling is incredibly inappropriate to him.
Do you dress to the left or to the right?
It's like Duchovny went out of his way to show equality between the characters.
Wait, Mulder, I can't.
I know this feels wrong because we're friends and we treat each other as equals, but...
There is also a scene with Scully in a bubble bath, which quickly escalates to all three characters in bubble baths. Skinner even corrects Mulder, calling him Skin Man, as if to demonstrate that you can put characters in odd situations and still have them behave like themselves.
I appreciate that, Skin Man.
Don't call me that.
Yes, sir.
Going beyond these improvements, Duchovny seems to have also put Carter's criticism into print, because just like Milagro, this episode also has a hack writer making his own conclusions to serve as a meta-commentary on the show.
Well, you're crazy for believing what you believe, and you're crazy for not believing what he believes.
It even begins with this writer's wacky movie adaptation quickly spiraling into Mulder and Scully making out.
7 long years I've been waiting for just the right moment, Scully.
You're a sick man, Mulder.
I imagine Mulder and Scully's horrified reactions are like Frank Spotnitz and Chris Carter reacting to the end of The Unnatural. I mean, there's even another filthy innuendo.
Is that your flashlight, Mulder? Or are you just happy to be lying on top of me?
My flashlight. Oh, that.
All right, one more pun and I pull out my gun.
As a meta character, the writer mostly behaves like an excited fan, but he also acts as a critical voice, just like Futurama's A Clone of My Own.
Do you even have a medical degree? And why do we need a bending robot around here anyway? And why does our space pilot have only one eye?
I like the way you guys work. No warrants, no permission, no research.
He even forces his own fanfare into his wacky movie adaptation by having Scully be in love with Skinner, which may sound like nonsense today, but this was a genuine fanfare back in the 1990s.
I'm in love with Assistant Director Walter Skinner.
Finally, this episode highlights how important Mulder and Scully's relationship is to the show, because they literally drop the Monster of the Week plot just to focus on Mulder and Scully's characterization instead.
You're leaving? You don't want to get to the bottom of this?
Not especially.
However, this plot did resolve itself off screen, with Mulder reading the resolution and dwelling on how the antagonist's memory was tarnished by one bad act.
Hoffman and O'Fallon were these complicated, flawed, beautiful people, and now they'll just be remembered as jokes.
So he's explaining how easily one bad moment can spoil everything.
I am a horse's ass.
Until next week, please don't do anything that we wouldn't do, would you? And if you don't do it, don't do it something.